How can the New York Giants get off to a hot start against the Minnesota Vikings? We have your keys and key players coming up next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL, written in all lowercase letters, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. Prize Picks, run your game. Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find my written work, New York Giants on SI.com, part of the SI Publisher Network. And as always, welcome on into my Blue Crew community members, to my everydayers, to my newcomers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. It is appreciated. And if you're watching on YouTube, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so. Don't forget, if you do subscribe, click that little bell so that you are notified every time I post a new video. And if you wouldn't mind, like the video as well. It all helps with the algorithm. And if you are listening to us on our audio platforms, a 5-star review is always appreciated. So yeah, thank you for everything. Welcome on in on today's Locked On Giants podcast. We're going to take a deep dive here into this weekend's Giants-Vikings game. We're going to take a look at the keys to the game. I've identified, I think, 3 keys that will decide the game. In the second segment, we will take a look at some players that we want to keep an eye on, specific matchups. And I'm looking at it more so from the Giants perspective, but I'll tell you the Vikings counterpart. So these are all going to be like a continuation of the keys, but with specifics to matchups. And then in the final segment, I'm going to answer a question submitted by one of my Blue Crew community members. So what I'm going to try and do is whenever I get a question from my Blue Crew community members, I'm going to try and work that into a segment here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And if you want information on how to join the Blue Crew community, it's in the show notes. So all you have to do is take a look. There's a free 14-day trial. If you like it, you do nothing, and it's and you continue on for it's $4.99 a month. If you don't like it, you cancel before your trial is over and you owe nothing. All right, let's get into the keys. All right, the first key that I have identified for Giants victory: get after Sam Darnold. All right, now according to Pro Football Focus, Sam Darnold has a career 59.7% completion rate when he is under pressure. All right. Like any other quarterback, they don't like to be pressured. They don't like to be hit. They don't like to be hurried. They like to take their time to scan the field and make decisions. But as we know, that is not always the case. Sam Darnold, historically in his career, has been a type of player who has, when he's been rushed, he's made stupid mistakes. He's made backbreaking mistakes that have led to turnovers. He's got 63 touchdowns, career touchdowns, to only 56 interceptions. So almost equal. All right. So if you get after Sam Darnold, chances are he's going to make a mistake. Now, one matchup in particular that I am going to be looking at in the Giants' quest to get after Sam Darnold is going to be Dexter Lawrence, Giants nose tackle, against Vikings center Garrett Bradbury. Now, Bradbury is about 40 pounds lighter than Dexter Lawrence. So you could pretty much mark it down that the Vikings will probably send some extra resources to try to slow down Big Dex, because that man is a one-man wrecking crew. Now, if you go back to 2022, when the Giants last met the Minnesota Vikings. They played in obviously the regular season game and the wild card game. And those two games combined, Dexter Lawrence, 14 quarterback pressures and 5 stops. So he was a one-man wrecking crew in those two games. If you're the Vikings, you've got to figure out a way to stop him because he is going to wreck your game. And I think if Dexter can at least push the pocket, that could potentially open up some stuff for the rest of the guys to come in and do their thing. So I anticipate the Giants are going to be able to get after Sam Darnold, which I think is the key. If Dexter can push that pocket, if the Vikings find that they have to double or triple team him, I think he is the key guy that the Vikings need to stop if they want to have a chance at winning this game. All right, key number 2, stuff the running game. The Giants' run defense hasn't been good of late. I mean, and when I say of late, I'm talking like the last couple of years. The Vikings, they signed Aaron Jones in the offseason, who is a very, very good running back. The Giants have been, they were 29th in run defense last year. And basically, if they don't stop this run game of the Minnesota Vikings, that's going to allow for Minnesota to set up play action, which Sam Darnold is good at executing. So it goes without saying, shut down the run, get rid of, the possibility of play action, and force Sam Darnold to beat you with his arm. Because if you can achieve that, you've got a pretty good chance of winning this game. If you don't stop that run, then you're going to be in for a long afternoon. Now, I'm not as concerned about the running game up the middle. I am concerned about the Giants' run defense on the edges. That's where at times they have been a little bit more vulnerable. So I'm curious to see how, the Giants man the edges. If they're able to string out the running game of the Minnesota Vikings to slow that unit down until the cavalry can come in. So key number 2 again, stuff the running game. All right. And then key number 3, chill the blitz. All right. Now, last year was the first year for Brian Flores, who took over as defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings were the number 1 blitzing team in the NFL. Yes, more so than Wink Martindale and the New York Giants, if you can believe it. So the Vikings blitz more than the Giants, and they finished 11 in DVOA in terms of getting home with pressure. Flores is very creative with his blitzes. All right. So think Wink Martindale almost. Remember how Wink used to send blitzes from the secondary, and he used to do all kinds of funky stuff to try to create confusion up front and just, trip up the offensive line. That's what Brian Flores does. So, obviously, you've got Daniel Jones back there. Daniel Jones, 46 fumbles, 40 interceptions in 60 regular season games. He has been prone to make mistakes in the past, but here's the thing, folks. Here's why I'm confident that things may be different this year. The Giants have a veteran offensive line up front. All right. Greg Van Roten and Jermaine Illuminor on the right side, Andrew Thomas and John Runyon Jr. on the left side. We saw instances this summer of that offensive line, and granted, not, some of the starters were missing, so we haven't seen the complete 5 along with center John Michael Schmitz play a game. But we have seen instances of the Giants offensive line picking up stunts and twists, which can be used to create confusion and allow some of these exotic blitzes to get through. So I feel a lot better in knowing that the Giants have a veteran offensive line in front of Daniel Jones that I think is going to be better equipped at handling anything that Brian Flores might throw at them. Is it going to be perfect? No, there'll probably be a pressure or 2 or 3 or 4, but I don't think it's going to be a case where Daniel Jones is going to be under duress all day long. At least I hope it's not. So if the Giants can slow down that Minnesota pass rush, that blitz, they give themselves a pretty good chance at winning this game. All right, now coming up next, I'm going to look at specific matchups that I think are key to a Giant victory. We'll talk about that right after this. Hey, Giant fans. So, when you're hiring for your small businesses, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board, they help you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but who might be open for the perfect role. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours when they use LinkedIn. And did you know that LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier? They've just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process faster. Find out why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring posting by posting your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, Giant fans, the new Locked On NFL is here. Locked On NFL is now 2 shows every day. First, the madman, Tyler Rowland, kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop for a visit with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts and get unprecedented NFL insight. Hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes or less. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the new Locked On NFL your second listen on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And in case you missed it, we did Locked On Giants live on Thursday night. I know that the Chiefs were playing the Ravens on Thursday night, but I know we also were interested in the Packers and Eagles game, which is being played Friday night. So we moved it to Thursday night. We're going to try and do it every week. You know, hopefully Tana and Dog will be available, and hopefully we can get back to doing it every week. So because so many of you have asked for it, and I really want to try and give you guys the content that you want. So make sure if you haven't already checked it out, check that out. It's usually a longer show, but we did it and we had a lot of fun as always. All right, in this segment, who are some of the key Giant players we have to keep an eye on in this game? Guys whose performances will determine win or loss. All right, I'm going to give you 3. And some of them are pretty obvious, but I'm going to talk about them anyway. Number 1, Giants cornerback Deonte Banks. Banks, in all likelihood, will draw Justin Jefferson. I would be absolutely shocked if the Giants don't have Banks travel with Jefferson. All right. So that's going to be a key battle to keep an eye on, because obviously Justin Jefferson is the number 1 receiver for the Vikings. Deonte Banks, the Giants CB1 or de facto CB1. Now, a lot of you have asked me, what about Adori Jackson? Is he going to play? And if so, will he draw Justin Jefferson? How many snaps will he play? And so on and so forth. Folks, I don't believe that Adori Jackson is going to even start this game. I definitely don't think he's going to play a full game. All right. So if you look at his practice, all right, he practiced Monday. They went through a kind of like a walkthrough. Wednesday was an intense practice, which was done in pads. Thursday, they were off. Friday, they were back. That was not done in pads. Adori's got to be ramped up. And even Adori himself said that he's got to be ramped up. So I'm not anticipating Adori starting. I am not anticipating him playing, 80% or more of the snaps. I do think he will get some snaps. Shane Bowen talked about, seeing where he's at the end of the week. and maybe giving him a select package worth of snaps in certain situations. So that's what I think is going to happen. As far as who's going to start there, Cordell Flott is not on the injury report, so it is possible he gets to start there. I think he will. I think Nick McLeod will be kind of the utility guy that he's so good at, playing special teams, playing in sub packages. So again, it all boils down to Deonte Banks will probably draw the Justin Jefferson assignment, because I'm not so sure you want Cordell Flott and Justin Jefferson squaring off on the field if you can help it. All right, the next matchup, speaking of corner receivers, Stefan Gilmore versus Malik Neighbors. Case of the old veteran and the young rookie, right? That should make for a nice little side story, I think, once the game is over. Gilmore, obviously an accomplished veteran, still has a lot left in the tank. Malik Neighbors, he has been as advertised. It doesn't matter if he's going against his own teammates or if he's going against opposing teammates or opposing team players. Malik Neighbors has looked good. This is a guy who is chomping at the bit to get out there, to get his NFL career started. And this is a very competitive young man who is just looking to get the ball and do wonderful things with the ball in his hands. And for those of you who didn't see the little clip, Malik Neighbors in the locker room on Wednesday, he was asked, what does he hope? How does he hope Giant fans will greet him if he scores? And he goes, I want everybody to stand up and yell, leak. Kind of like how, I don't know if you guys remember but when Victor Cruz was here, when he was with the Giants, every time he did something great with the ball in his hands, everybody would yell, Cruz. So that's what Malik Neighbors is asking for. And, I think there'll be plenty of opportunities for Giant fans to yell out leak. So it should be fun. But that's definitely a matchup that can influence this game is Malik Neighbors versus Stefan Gilmore. And of course, we'll see if Gilmore is assigned specifically to cover Malik Neighbors, or if they play whatever side or whatever position Malik Neighbors ends up playing. We'll see if the Vikings change things up. All right. Then the last one I want to talk about is Brian Burns versus Vikings right tackle Brian ONeal. Now, to be clear, Brian Burns can line up on the left side or on the right side, but he will probably see most of his snaps, I would think, on the left side, which means he would go up against right tackle Brian ONeal, who is a second-round draft pick of the Vikings back in 2018. Now, I went back and I looked at Brian Burns' pressures and whatnot with the Panthers last year. Last year, Brian Burns led the Panthers with 25 pressures from the left side out of 40 total team pressures. All right. So more than half of his pressures last season came from that left side. Now, I don't think, again, he's going to exclusively be kept on the left side. I think they'll probably flip him with Kayvon Thibodeau. But I think if you look at the majority of the snaps, and it'll be interesting. If I remember, I'll take a look and see, if I'm correct with this. I think you're going to see a lot of snaps from Brian Burns going up against ONeal on that side of the ball. All right, coming up next, we hear from one of our Blue Crew community members who has a question that I want to answer here on the program, so don't go anywhere. Hey, Giant fans, Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. And Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, your Prize Picks picks are still live. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus, as it's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on Locked On. We're getting you ready for the New York Giants opening weekend at home. Minnesota is kicking off their 100th season in existence, hopefully with a win. It would be nice if the Giants could win so that we have something nice to talk about on Monday instead of having to pick up where we left off last year. So we'll see how that all plays out. Obviously, I've been talking about keys to the game. I've been talking about key matchups to keep an eye on. In this segment, though, I want to pick up a question that was sent to me by one of my Blue Crew community members. And again, if you want information about the Blue Crew, basically what that is, it's a group of insiders. And we communicate via text. I send out little, text notices and little things that I pick up that I don't necessarily put out here on the podcast or any of my videos or any of my writings. So I send that over to the Blue Crew, as I call them. And we just kind of text back and forth. They can send me text messages. I can respond. And we're probably going to form a Discord group because I want to really get everybody, into a true community format. But that's something I'm working on in the coming, weeks and whatnot. So information, if you're interested in the Blue Crew, you can find it in the show notes, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching or listening, I should say, on our audio platforms. All right. So this question comes from one of my Blue Crew community members, one of my insiders. This is from Robert H., who asked me, if Daniel Jones excels as he did in 2022, would the New York Giants redo his contract and extend him? Robert, first, thank you for being a Blue Crew community member. Thank you for the question. The answer is probably not. And here's why. Daniel Jones, believe it or not, his cap hit next year is about $5 million less than it is this year. So his paragraph 5 salary is going to be $30 million as opposed to $35 million in 2025. That's going to lower his cap hit to $41.605 million, which is, I think, about what, 20 points. No, I'm sorry. It's about 18 or 17% of the projected cap. So here's what I think will happen, Robert. If Daniel Jones has a good year this year, I think he will come back next year. He will play out year number 3 of his contract, which has no guaranteed money. Might they restructure it? Probably. I could see him being a candidate for restructuring, but not necessarily for extending at that point, because you want consistency. You don't want Daniel Jones to have one good year and then a bad year, then a good year, then a bad year. You want to see him start stringing that together. In the last year of his contract, this is where I think it makes sense, where if they're going to rip up the contract and give him an extension, do so after 2025, because in 2026, he is due to have a $58.605 million cap hit, which is 20.6% of the projected 2026 cap, which is $284 million. Now, again, that number is going to probably go up because we saw the unexpected rise that it took this year, and that's going to continue to rise next year and the year after. So, Robert, I think if you're the Giants, it makes sense to see that Daniel Jones doesn't have a fluky type of year. 2022, he was good, yes, but he also had Saquon Barkley in the lineup. This year, he does not have Saquon in the lineup. This year, he's got a different play caller. This year, they're going to put more emphasis on the pass, and not because, necessarily they have to throw the ball because they're behind. So this is a make or break year for Daniel Jones, no question. But if I'm the Giants, I would not rush out to extend him if he has a good year. I would consider maybe restructuring him, for next year, and maybe, pushing some guaranteed money and just, doing the usual cap gymnastics. And certainly I can look at that if, it comes down to that. But extension, no. I think the way the contract was initially set up, Robert, it was set up to where if they were going to extend him, they were going to do so after 3 years and not necessarily after 2, even though they have that escape hatch after 2 years, which would allow them to do so if they wanted to. So that's how I kind of see that playing out. All right. So thank you for the question, Robert. And message to all my other Blue Crew community members who are watching. Send me your questions. You have the text information. Send them to me. And whenever I have an open slot in the Locked On Giants podcast, I'll get them answered. And if we get enough questions from you guys and gals, we'll do a private video. I haven't been getting a lot of questions from you guys and gals. So please send them to me. And also for those of you not in the Blue Crew, if you have questions, obviously you can send them to me as well. Maybe we'll do mailbags. I know a lot of you like the mailbags. We kind of got away from them. But if you want to see the return of Twitter Tuesday, we'll do that because I'm here to give you what you guys and gals want. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Locked On Giants podcast. Again, thank you for tuning in and making us part of your day. And don't forget, check out Locked On NFL, all new. Really, you couldn't ask for two better hosts, and Tyler Rowland, who just brings the energy all the time. I mean, I don't know how he does it. And then, of course, my guy Tony Wiggins, absolutely love him and Tyler and all my hosts. They're all cool. So make sure you check that out. Giant fans, let's go Giants. Let's have a good weekend. And I'll be back on Monday with a recap of hopefully what will be a Giants win. Have a good one, everybody.